But for people who understand the power context, the symbol carries a lot of weight. Do you see? It's just like one can say it's symbolic behavior for males to have their pants dropped. Do you see? But that carries a statement that I'm available for homosexual activity.
Absolutely.
My buttocks are available.
The new cleavage.
You see, but it's, the person who is doing it may not, they just say, well, the next person is doing it. But they will not have an understanding of what it means. And unless the context of racism, white supremacy is understood, where the system has to emasculate the black male for white genetic survival. So turn him into a female. You can do it by taking the fathers out of the home and fathers that are unemployed, or putting the males in prison and having them have sexual relations with each other. And that becomes style, pants being lowered in the prison, then that comes out on the street. But everybody, do you see, males are being affected, and as long as they don't understand we are in a power construct, a power system of racism, white supremacy, that of necessity has to emasculinize us, then people will just begin to engage in letting the pants fall down. And I say, you just let the pants fall lower and lower and lower, eventually step out of the pants and step into a dress.
What's your next question, caller?
My next question is, does religion have its place in Black America, or should we just abandon it altogether?
Well, the religion that black people have been given in the system of racism, white supremacy, is presenting them with the image of God as a white man. You see, black people from the time we were in formal slavery were given the religion of Christianity. And we were told that this white male named Jesus is the Son of God. That would mean that God has to be a white man, because otherwise he couldn't have a white son. And so black people are programmed to love the very image that is oppressing them, and to love that image more than they love themselves. And as long as religion is abstracted from understanding the system as a whole, then you won't understand how religion is being used. So as long as black people, as long as we are victimized by the system of racism, white supremacy, and black people, the highest form of worship is worshiping the very image that is oppressing them, then they can never be emancipated, because that's deep within their psychology. But if you understand that the areas of activity that are controlled under a system are economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war.
What's your next question, caller?
It's understandable that the system of white supremacy would present to the majority non-white people on the planet that God is white. God is a white man.
Absolutely.
And as long as they are locked into that belief, to liberate themselves from racism, white supremacy will be nearly impossible.
Absolutely. Caller, what's your final question?
Okay, my final question is, how should we interpret the office of the presidency in our lifetime of a black man being in that position?
Great question. And thanks for calling.
I would say that it should be treated in the same way as a black man having any job. Every black man that has employment is employed within the context of a system of racism, white supremacy. And for the black man to stay employed, he has to be subject to the will of racism, white supremacy. See, any job that you go on, you are subject to whoever owns that business. We are in a system of racism. The president is in a system of racism. And there are certain behaviors that black people can engage in that will bring the weight of the system down upon them. And so the president is in exactly the same position. And I maintain that it's imperative that we as black people begin to understand the system of racism, white supremacy. And to see, because it's like all white people, in other words, black people are programmed to think God is white. So then you have a white figure, they could call themselves members of the Republican Party, come out and say, this black man is bad and stupid and he shouldn't be president. And the majority of black people who are programmed to believe God is white man, they will just start following that dictate and go against a black man. Any black man who is in that position would be caught in the same trap that the president is in. And if a black man decided, I'm going to do what I want to do, so he's dead the next day.
Dr. Welsing, that is a heck of an answer to that question. So basically you're stating this, and don't let me put words in your mouth. If President Barack Obama were to do things for black America in a progressive manner, you think that there's the threat of assassination?
Absolutely. And I think that he didn't understand that in the beginning. He said it's important to have dialogue about racism, just like the Attorney General, who was appointed by the president, a black man, said, are we a nation of cowards, being unable to deal with racism? And both of them have been made to shut up talking about racism.
Quick.
The president gets death threats every day on the hour.
Absolutely.
So I think that if black people understand we're in a system of racism, white supremacy, any other black man in that office would find himself blocked with the same restraints that President Obama is faced with. And if we understand, then we would understand every attack on him is an attack on us. It's just like the killing of the Troy Davis. That's saying to black people, we can kill you when we want to kill you.
Wow.
And if the counter to racism, white supremacy, is counter-racism. But you don't counter something if you don't respect yourself. You just jump on the same bandwagon.
Absolutely.
See, President Obama's in the same position Martin Luther King was in the same position that Jesus was in. And I say symbolically, if you look at the word Jesus and look at it, spell it in Ebonics, it says just us. Jesus was a non-white man struggling against the Roman Empire. And what happened to him? He was killed by Rome.
Absolutely. Dr. Welsing, I have another question for you. Could you please talk to us about the disproportionate number of black men incarcerated and how racism, white supremacy plays a role?
See, in other words, I said racism is about white genetic survival, meaning that the enemy of white genetic survival is the genetic power of the black man. And so what do you do with him? You kill him, you lock him up, you have him unemployed, you have his children without fathers to guide male behavior. So the black male is the enemy of the state. He is under attack. That's why almost every movie that, in videos, all kind of movies have the black man getting killed. Mm-hmm. Getting killed. He thinks he's a part, then he gets killed. So we have to understand that, and again, it's not, woo, 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 get the hunky. That's not the answer. That is not the answer. The answer is to start being calm and start being serious. It's not about hating white people. White people are doing their best to genetically survive. Tragically, what they figured out to do is creating a system of injustice and a system of terror, especially against black people. But black people have to figure out, now, what do we do? What do we do on our side of the chessboard? And I say that the first thing is to understand what the game is. There's an African proverb that says, when the fool learns the game, the players have dispersed.
That's fantastic.
See, there's another African proverb that says the monkey was so busy doing what everybody else was doing without thinking, and one day the monkey cut his throat.
Wow.
You see, in other words, monkey see, monkey do without thinking.
Absolutely.
Monkey
Dr.
see,
Welsing.
monkey do without monkey respecting himself or herself.
Yes, ma'am.
So our challenge right now, before the next election, is to try to get as deep into an understanding of racism, white supremacy, get deeply into black self-respect, so we are respecting ourselves and respecting President Barack Obama, who is struggling to try to do something with education and health care as best he can. Just imagine if he came out and said, I really want to help black people. Please.
Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell you this.
We have to understand. See, if we don't understand racism, then we blame him.
Absolutely, Dr. Welsing. Let me just interject briefly. And talking about our first black president of the United States, I love what you just stated, but at the same token, I'm just going to give my quick opinion, then we're going to go to another caller. If President Barack Obama can do specific things for Hispanics who are not part of the white community, why can't he do specific things for African Americans?
Because the Hispanics are not as feared. See, in other words, this
genetic
is the color code
annihilation
for white genetic survival is if you're black, get back. That means you have the greatest genetic potential. If you're brown, stick around a little bit less. If you're yellow, you're mellow. If you're white, you're all right. So the majority of Hispanics classify themselves as white, even though they're brown skinned, because they want to be white. They want to be accepted as white. So that's okay. The system of white supremacy says we're going to call them illegal aliens, but we're going to bring as many Hispanics in as possible, and we're going to let them have jobs. And so then the black people are going to be out of jobs, and maybe the black people will fight with the Hispanics, and the Hispanics will fight with the black people. And they'll be squabbling with each other, and the white people will go unopposed.
Absolutely. Dr. Welsing, we're going to go to another caller right now, area code 213-343. Talk to me, it's Dino Dean. Did you have a question or a comment for Dr. Francis Cress Welsing?
Yes, I really enjoy your show. And I'm a white person, and I listen to this witch doctor talk. And what's really funny is that she's just a racist monger. She keeps saying white supremacy, white supremacy. I mean, her whole dialect is like from the 60s. And actually, it's quite boring because I heard it many, many times before. And what she needs to do is just get her little hate group together and say, hell with the white, hell with the whites, you know, black is in, black is in. She doesn't know what she's really talking about because her whole dialect is from different books and pages, and she put it into one form and call it her.
Oh, okay, Carla. Thank you very much. Well, actually, Dr. Welsing is an author and a psychiatrist and a great researcher. Dr. Welsing, did you want to respond to that?
Well, I would just say to the gentleman that, in other words, he is certainly aware that people who classify themselves as white have more power